welcome back. Today I would like to bring you the second part of the book series that I really love, and today it will be Middle-earth by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I've decided to bundle several of his books and stories together under the Middle-earth banner, because I really feel like the best way to read the series is to get a grounding first for Middle-earth before you really try to tackle any one book. The best way, I think, to start is with the Silmarillion, which I think is part Bible, part historical text, and then maybe the second half of the book is really some beautiful narrative stories around certain characters in the first and second age, which help shape the Middle-earth we come to know in later books. This is a resplendent read. It is very beautiful, very poetic. It is dense, it is difficult to read, therefore I would not give this a 5 out of 5. I'd actually give it a 4.1, because some people will DNF it and some people will struggle with it. But if you do struggle, please don't just give up on the greater Middle-earth. Maybe go with some of the singular stories that have been expanded upon, and they come in books like this. This is the Children of Huron. I'd actually give this a 4, maybe a 4.1 out of 5, whereas it's of a similar quality to the Silmarillion, but it won't give you the same backstory to Middle-earth that the Silmarillion will. But if you just want some of those narrative stories, this is a great one, and the Fall of Gondolin as well. If you really want to capture some of the beauty of the Sindar, the Noldor, the Teleri from that time, I mean, you have to really delve back and get some of that beautiful backstory to Middle-earth. And then obviously we can't go any further without talking about The Hobbit, what is possibly the greatest YA story ever made. Incredibly great character work. In fact, I think the character work in The Hobbit might be the best in any of the Middle-earth stories, and I absolutely love Bilbo. I love the party of the dwarves, and Gandalf is obviously well revered as a character. But I mean, just think, are there any better introduced antagonists than Gollum and Smaug? They really carry the story. This is an epic adventure. It's not, the longest, and it's an easy read, and I give it a 4.8 out of 5. It's exceptionally high quality. Sorry, I totally misspoke. I give it a 4.6 out of 5, and you'll see why soon. Right, finally, let's get into The Lord of the Rings. Now, the reason I gave The Hobbit a 4.6 is really when compared to this book here and where this book goes. The Fellowship of the Ring may be, depends on what day you ask me, the best book I've ever read. I could read 1,000 pages on the beautiful slice of life that is the Shire, and hear about all of the local gossip and the annoying neighbours of Bilbo and Frodo, and what's going on locally at Mickle Delving, or with Longbottom leaf prices, or I could just I could live there forever. It captures the British countryside better than just about any book I've ever read, which is crazy because it's not actually set in the British countryside. The characters in this book, I mean, just the elegance of Elrond, half-elven. There's so much to gush about in this book, but it is the epitome of grand epic adventure tales. The second book, The Two Towers, does suffer a little bit from being the middle of what was originally one long works. It is been extracted out. These have all split into actually 2 books apiece, so it's 6 books theoretically, and there's a lot to like. It's a great book, but it does meander a bit more. It relies more on Tolkien's great prose to pull you through. You won't get as much really engaging story driving stuff in the middle book, and certainly the siege at Helm's Deep is not like it is in the movies. The Return of the King, I mean, is there a greater showdown of protagonists versus antagonists? I love Sam as the terrifying elf lord come to reap revenge on Mordor. I love King Aragorn returned, the sword has been reforged, Prince Imrahil of the Swan Knights of Dol Amroth. But then you've got these great villains, you know, Shelob, you've got the Mouth of Sauron, and you know, the Witch King of Angmar. I mean, what 3 terrifying antagonists to kind of throw down the gauntlet in this final book. And there's never been written, in my opinion, a book of more courage, honor, nobility, and humanity. This book, you know, it really speaks to the human side of me more than anything I've ever read. And I would like to read a few excerpts from The Lord of the Rings for you now, just to kind of prove my point on how I feel about it. I wish it need not have happened in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf. And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. That's such a moving dialogue between the two there. And I have a couple more. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be so eager to deal out death in judgment, for even the wise cannot see all ends. Gandalf just dropping the best, you know, advice on people at the most, you know, opportune times. And then finally, and this is probably one of the greatest lines in literature, elves seldom give unguarded advice, for advice is a dangerous gift, even from the wise to the wise, and all courses may run ill. Now, once you've lived on this earth for many decades, it becomes very apparent that you can give advice and you can see it as the perfect advice, and you can give it with the best intentions, but how that advice is used and interpreted can still lead to absolute disaster. And that speaks to the long immortal lives of elves and why they are so guarded, and they don't want to interfere in the lives and the politics and the decisions of the lesser races, because they know the advice that is good for them may not be good for others. And that just goes to show why why Middle Earth is probably, you know, the greatest series of books I've ever read.